If we can become a plant based nation, we could get off all our medication. We want to keep doing things like we were, donating to organizations claiming to fight for a cure. But the cure is already in front of our eyes, and it's time for us to wake up and realize. We may not want to believe we have control. It's easier for most of us to metaphorically live in a hole. So many stories of how being plant based has reversed disease. It's funny that we can't stop eating meat with ease. We want to continue to look for the answer, yet people have reversed even cancer. I think finally, as a nation, it's time to give people the truthful information. Your hard earned money is what you pay to take your medicine day after day. Sadly, there's a lot of money being made in people staying sick. This has to finally make something click. We have to have this revelation that a cure means not selling medication. There's so many myths and misconceptions, but it's eye-opening once you make the connections. That meat and dairy are causing insulin resistance, it's not sugar and carbs causing diabetes, for instance. Scientifically, our bodies are not set up like carnivores. We model those who eat plants. If you can heal, why not give it a chance? You follow your car's owner's manual for what gas it takes, yet for our bodies without care, we feed it steaks. That's like giving an unleaded car diesel to drink. Our bodies will reject it, don't you think? I'm not here to tell you what to do, but to be a voice, that when it comes to your health, you have the choice. With just a few adjustments to your diet, I can help if you just want to try it. I've found testimonials that people have reversed every ailment and disease by simply eliminating meat, eggs, milk, and cheese. There's a tasty substitute for all the things you already eat. You can get all your nutrients without eating meat. Save the animals, the environment, and yourself just by making a few different selections off the grocery store shelf. It's never too late. I've seen it work at all age ranges. It's my passion, and I can't wait to hear about your positive health changes. It's time for the world to wake up and heal, and you can start with your very next meal. I was waiting. Oops. We had little technical difficulties there. All kinds of different things were coming up. I was like, wait, that was
Sorry
last
about
week.
that.
That was last week's stuff. Gotta love it. It's like when you go live, there's no edits, right? It's just raw, like the foods.
Yes.
Um, I'm like so excited. I'm like the only person that probably has their favorite day of the week is Monday because it's Meatless Monday. Even people that aren't vegan, sometimes restaurants have little Meatless Monday specials, so it helps more people try some more plant food and helps them heal. Thank you for playing the poem at the beginning, and thank you for this beautiful. I love the little picture you had on here. J&J Video Reacts. Dawn does all this stuff to get the stream ready. She's an awesome producer. She obviously go to her
Oh, thank
channel. She
you.
creates some excellent videos, but I'm telling you, this one, I love coffee, so it's like You're probably gonna think I'm gonna tell you about some kind of health benefits of coffee, but that's not really what this stream is all about. I love it. Look at the coffee. Welcome everyone to Meatless Monday. So today, well, let's start the stream with how we always do. So I always tell a little bit of my story, what happened to me, and why I now come on here every Monday and run a Facebook group and just am so interested in plant-based and vegan. What ended up happening is Dawn actually had this documentary that she found, I think it was on YouTube if I'm not mistaken, where it was about it was called Raw Food. I think it was just that simple, and
Yeah,
it was a
Woody Harrelson.
Yes, and I just shared a little clip from that the other day where Woody was talking. It was a whole bunch of people talking about how they have had such health benefits from a raw food plant based diet. So I'm like, I got to look into this. What is this? Plant based diet. And Woody Harrelson said that he had lots of mucus, allergies. His skin had like, blotches and acne, and lady sat down next to him in an airplane and or on a bus, I think he said, and said, you need to give up dairy. So this lady pretty much changed his life because at that point he said he gave up dairy, and he within 3 days his terrible like mucus that he always had and his allergies and his skin condition was cleared up. And I was like, okay, you know that's somebody that is telling their story. So I, of course, went on ahead and Googled it and YouTubed it, and I found stories of like people reversing asthma, even cancer. They were reversing type 2 diabetes. There was a whole physicians committee for responsible medicine, which were doctors that are like plant-based doctors that know this information. And it was like this whole little world of information opened up to me. And I'm like, I think I'll try this for maybe like 3 days or something. So I ate salads for 3 days, and then I was like kind of feeling okay with it. I'm like, I'm enjoying this salad. I was adding, I was trying adding on more vegetables each time and reading about different vegetables. It went on for a week, and then it went on for 2 weeks, and then it went on for a month. And a month in, all of a sudden, I'm like, this was April. So May, I
She kept going and going and going and going.
like the Energizer Bunny, right? But
The
remember,
Energizer vegan bunny.
in May, I realized that year, I said, it's weird that I'm not getting my normal allergies like what I normally get. Like I would always, probably end of April, early May, definitely by mid May, I would get that itchy, watery eyes, sometimes a cold that would come on. If it was windy out and the pollen count was high, I was just having to like stay inside sometimes or put the windows up in the car if I'd see one of those little, those little balls that come off the tree. I remember always having tissues as a kid, and
The little fuzz balls.
just always kind of, in the winter I would get a like a kind of a bronchial thing. And it was weird because I felt so clear, like I didn't have any, kind of like, you wake up and you feel like a little congested. I had none of that, and that had happened to me even when I didn't have allergies, pretty much like almost all most of the year. There was very few times when I wasn't kind of stuffy, and it was just weird. And I'm like, wow, this is really cool. And then like a little bit after that, I realized that the back pain I was having every day, like since I was a teenager. Like, well, I got to my 20s, I think, when I started picking up a little bit more weight. I had really terrible back pain that would kind of like squeeze the muscles. I would have to ask Dawn, can you pull that, section of my back and just pull it? It would feel relief. And I would get on the exercise bike in the morning. All of a sudden, one night I came home and I was so used to, when you're used to like pain or something, I would lay down on the bed kind of like facing like with my arms down and like stretch my back up to get rid of it. And one night I was like, wait, I don't think it really hurts. Like I don't think I need to be stretching right now. And I was like, this is crazy. Like I am bought in. So I started Googling why a plant based diet reduces, pain. And it was due to the inflammation in the meat and dairy. I found out that dairy was like a foreign substance to our body, believe it or not, that we've been told it does our body good, but it's actually causing different forms of cancer because of the different hormones in it, and because it literally, why it causes mucus is our body is set to put mucus in when it's trying to fight something off. So that's why when you get a germ or a cold or COVID or whatever, it's starting to produce mucus. That's why it's building up, because it's like, oh, I'm sending this mucus to get rid of that. And when our body reacts to dairy, it reacts the same way. Like a lot of people think, oh, lactose intolerance is because of, you get an upset stomach, but we don't realize other things that are manifesting from it. Like you may end up having worse asthma, or you might end up having eczema because of dairy. You might end up having stomach issues because of it. It's just, and overall, it's just not healthy for our body. It's not what we were meant to eat. It was meant for a baby cow. So that surprised the heck out of me. And all the stuff I was reading, especially on why it like lowers your blood pressure and just can heal so many things, because we're literally putting things in our body that we were meant to eat. And I'll talk about this a little bit later on when I talk about my mom and my sister, but I want to talk about how it can, even though that's not the topic, but how and why it reverses type 2 diabetes. But I'm getting off on a tangent. Back to my story. Anyway, I had so much energy. I loved it. I ended up eating raw food for 6 months, and then I lost too much weight for my own. I started feeling like, okay, I'm not used to being this little, and I feel like I need to put a little bit of weight back on, and I just couldn't keep up with it with all the raw food as much as I ate. So I decided to eat whole foods, which were like rice and beans and grains, oatmeal, different things, and nuts. And I ended up like putting on some weight back, but I've never gotten over 125 pounds in 4 years. And I've never been on a diet in my entire life where I didn't go up and down when oh, it's good this week. I'm on this diet. And then I'd go back up. It was like the weight loss, the energy, just the way that I felt. And then I realized everything that goes on in the animal industry. And I was calling myself, loving animals, and I didn't know what was really happening. So I think the reason I get so passionate about this is because thank goodness Dawn shared that video with me. And thank goodness when I watched it, it was like I saw that on YouTube. So like if somebody's listening and they don't know this information, or they might see one of my Facebook posts, which probably annoy all my Facebook friends, but if they click on it and it can heal them, it can change their life, or it can save an animal. The reason I do this is because this is what happened to me. 42 years I felt like I was just in the dark and didn't know that we were meant to eat this way. And I feel
The crazy thing too is, you always talk about how I started out being interested in becoming a vegetarian and mentioned it to you. And then I started, at the time, I was going to begin growing microgreens. Remember that?
yep.
And that's how it started. I was going to try to grow microgreens, and I had gotten into sprouting and things like that. And I found a lot of videos on how to grow your own vegetables and, you know, like live a vegetarian lifestyle. And that led to the video that Jen's talking about. So the funny thing is, I didn't quite stop eating meat at that time like she did. I did for a couple of weeks, and then I went back. And while I was eating a lot of salads with her, I still would have the occasional chicken burrito or have a piece of fish. I narrowed it down. I stopped eating red meat, but I narrowed it down. I would have chicken, not that often, but I would have chicken or fish or like a seafood, like some shrimp or something. And then it happened. One day, Jen showed me the Gary Arofsky video where they were literally abusing cows, and and it had me in tears. I mean, and I don't cry often, so it had me crying angry tears. Like, and I remember looking at her through those tears, saying, "I'm never eating meat
And,
again."
like, I got teary-eyed because I felt terrible. I was like, I didn't we were having a good day. We were having a great morning. I remember this is when we were delivering food. We had
We were in the Chipotle parking lot.
yeah.
I remember that, picking
Eh,
up
and it
food.
was like we were in this great mood, and I was like, "Oh, I want to look at this Gary Yorovsky video, you know." And I was like, and she watched it, and when she reacted like that, and I saw that she reacted, to that magnitude, it was like at that moment. That's when it changed, and that's all it took. So for both of us, for two different reasons,
Yeah.
like I started in on the health reasons, and then
Watching a video I recommended to you,
right. Isn't
and
that
then
weird?
I stopped eating meat a year later based on a video you showed me. So we helped each other out there.
That is wild. I don't think
That's
I've
awesome.
ever really put it together like that until we had
It
this
just it
conversation,
just came
right?
to me. I'm like, wow, I showed you that video, and then you showed me the Gary one and got me off meat. So, and I was the original one that was supposed to be going vegetarian, and you took it and ran with it. And then, because you had already seen the Gary, and you're like, I want you to take a look at this.
Mhm.
Because I was still hanging out there with the meat thing. I didn't want red meat anymore, but I still was okay with eating an occasional piece of chicken or some grilled chicken. And you're like, you know what? Do me a favor, just take a quick look at this video,
Mhm.
and let me know what you think about this. It's a little graphic. You warned me,
Yeah.
but just let me know what you think. And oh my God, I was like, I think I'm not eating meat anymore. That's what, and it had nothing to do with me. It was all about I did not want to support an industry that would harm animals like that.
Yeah, because they
It's not
make
the
us.
whole industry. It's certain farms, certain people that are doing it. I'm not going to blame the whole meat industry, but there are people that are out there. There are farms and animal agriculturists that are abusing the animals that they are slaughtering.
And if you think about it too, whether it's done in a humane way, I've heard other animal activists talk about this, and remind me that how this ties into the coffee bean theory though. But what ends up happening in a lot of cases is they won't even let cameras into these places because it looks so
Now you know
terrible.
why.
They keep them like cooped up. Sometimes they're on top of each other. Sometimes they're sickly, and there's some animals that
I
are
mean, I saw a
dead.
guy literally punching a cow repeatedly in the head. I'm like, you're already going to kill the cow, or you're using it for. Why are you kicking and kicking him? Just, hey, watch this. Ha ha, bam, bam, bam. Like he was sparring, like a
Yeah.
sparring bag, just punching on the cow's head just for the hell of it. That
And
I
we
was
don't
done.
and they make us think like the cows are walking around smiling to give us milk, and that's another video I saw. And also I read that animals, if you think about your cat or your dog and they see another cat or dog going through something, they can smell so well that they almost smell the death of the
Yeah.
one that's before them. And so every animal has a personality, has feelings, can feel pain. So it's like, I don't want to. That's why you and I think both, even though like I want to be whole food plant based, sometimes I'm all raw. Even after I did that, I want to go through weeks of raw. A cheat night for us is like going out and getting a plant based pizza or getting a Beyond Burger, one of the processed meats. We don't just, it's not like once it's ethical, once it's in you and you know what that supports. I could never bite into flesh of an animal or fish, anything
No.
at this point, because it's like you can't unlearn what you learn. And sometimes it might take something like that. But as a bonus, even if you do this for the animals, you're going to end up getting really healthy,
And
and losing weight and
And I'm
stopping
telling
medications.
you, and initially it was because of the abuse of the animals. Then over time, when I watched more videos and you showed me more stuff, and as I grew to learn what it actually does to the body, I'm like, oh hell no. It's not even just about the animals at this point. I don't want dead flesh in my body. My
And
flesh is living. Why would I eat dead flesh? That's nasty. And
right.
when you learn the proper perspective of it instead of what we've been brainwashed on, it's really easy not to eat it.
Yeah, and it's like, there was this disconnect with me. I know that I was like, "Oh, I feel," we always joked even when eating meal, "Oh, I feel bad for the or the guy from Chick-fil-A, eat more chicken." That was funny, ha ha, but the poor chicken. But
Right,
the
right.
worst thing I ever saw, or not the worst, but one of the worst things, talking about that, and then we'll get off this topic so we don't depress everyone about the animals, but it is this video, and it had these cows on an assembly line, live cows now, with their legs stretched open, similar to how gynecologists, props, and they were um artificially inseminating these cows or whatever they were doing. And then those cows are then made to have baby, which I've read that it takes them like 9 months or so, just like us, maybe even a little bit longer, to carry the baby. And then when they have the baby is taken away from them. And I remember playing that video for you one time where the cow is screaming out because it knows that it's being taken away. And then they over milk the cows, because if you think about it, a cow just doesn't sit there and have milk in it. They're like any other animal. They only lactate when they've had a baby or getting ready to have a baby.
Yeah.
So I never realized that. And I'm like, wow, like all these things that I didn't put together. And then they said that, and I've saw videos of like that the cows are so over milked in some factories that there's pus, and they allow a certain amount in the milk, and they're in pain, and it's a terrible thing. And I'm like, for so many reasons, not only did it cure, like, luckily I wasn't dealing with like really severe health issues. I maybe had a little bit high blood pressure, I was overweight, and I had allergies and back pain. I guess that's kind of a lot, but nothing like,
Nah.
chronic. But if it got rid of all that, and I don't have to worry about looking at my plate and thinking, oh, I'm supporting an industry that is abusing animals. If I know the World Health Organization said that processed meats and red meat are a carcinogen, just like smoking. If we think about in history, there was an evolution for everything. Everything took time to realize. There was a time when doctors were advertising cigarettes, right? Like, and saying it's okay to smoke. There are organizations paid to do studies that say it's okay to eat eggs, so we have to really just look at the information and research it, and like think about who's making money off being plant-based. Really, nobody. The whole plant industry isn't like the meat lobbyist, where it's like, okay, there's not a plant association like that's trying to
Right.
push this. So it's just people like us who've had health benefits, and who've realized that we've been programmed, because that's all we knew, that's all our parents knew, that's all our grandparents knew, so that's what's comfortable, that's cultural beliefs involved. We come together to eat food, so a lot
Right.
of times it's like the coffee bean theory. What that is, and how I never pushed you and said, you shouldn't be eating that, you shouldn't eat that. And like, I remember many years ago when I just kept on my course. I'd put I'd play some videos, I'd say, hey, check this out, or did you know that we're really not supposed to eat you know meat and dairy. Let me show you the pictures of the digestive systems. Like, I would plant little seeds, but it wasn't like I would just sit there and eat my salad when other people are eating their whatever that is that they're eating, and I would just continue to stay on my course and respect other people, because I know where they were, because I was that person for 42 years.
Yeah.
And doing things like this is just talking about our own story, our own journey. And I feel like that is how, like, so the coffee bean, let me go on to that. The coffee bean theory, it's a story. Ironically enough, it's going to have a carrot, an egg, and a coffee bean in it. Um, so I don't want to lose my vegan card for telling this about the egg, but it goes along with the story. I'll find a new what do you call it? Vegetable or something that reacts like an egg.
Yeah.
But it's really based on a story. This mother is her daughter's going through a really difficult time. She's going through a lot of adversity in her life, and she comes to the mother and asks for advice how to handle it. She's really upset and distraught, and so the mother makes 3 pots of boiling water. She puts one pot of boiling water and puts a carrot in it, and then she takes the second pot of boiling water and she puts an egg in it. And she takes the third pot of boiling water, and in that one, she puts a coffee bean or several coffee beans. And the next thing you know, she says to the daughter's like, okay, what's the point of this? How is this helping me? And so she says to her, okay, take the carrot out and let's see what happened to the carrot when we put it in that boiling water. And the carrot got really soft and weak, and almost disintegrated in the water. So the boiling water is meant to be the adversity. This is someone maybe who, let's say that you are someone who's discovered this great thing like about being vegan, and you're excited about it and you want to like tell everybody, but you're like, no, I'm not going to do that. Or I don't, I don't want to talk to people about it. I'm just going to kind of, meld in, or might even by the adversity of everybody eating meat and some people saying, where are you getting your protein? And you're going to get sick and this and that. Next thing you know, you might just revert back to eating the way that you always did in your comfort zone because you've gotten softened by that environment. And then let's say the next thing that she put in there, the egg felt like, okay, that's still hard on the outside. But she opened the egg, and as you can see on the inside, it gets really mushy. So, like, this might be, and you could look at this how you handle anything. Like, if something bad is happening at work or something in your life, you're going through a divorce or something like that, let's just say, the way that you handle that is you may get hardened on the outside. So, you might become one of the vegans that learned what we did about animals and what's going on with people, and the world might seem like boiling water, and you just might get angry. You might start lashing out at people, or showing, maybe posting things that are kind of going to make people fearful of even wanting to talk to you, and you can think that the world is bad, and this person is hard on the outside, but on the inside they're really kind of going through it basically, but they're acting on the outer edge that they're hard. And then the next thing is the coffee bean. And she asks the daughter, she takes a little ladle or whatever they call that, and she takes the water out. And she says, now what happened to the coffee bean? The coffee bean actually made coffee out of the boiling water instead of it causing the coffee bean to change. It changed the very environment it was in. And I think the way that we have to look at this, the world, and the way that we can't change people that don't want to be changed, but all we can do is basically be coffee beans. We have to be, I just shout out to we did it dot health. I just finished taking the certification and took my I guess so-called like test or workbook, and I'm waiting to see if I'm going to be certified. But what that is all about is how we express our beliefs to the world so that people are not turned off by it, and it opens people up to want to hear more. And the same with our friend June, who we had a conversation with last night, who's a vegan empowerment or vegan coach. He helps people with like mindfulness meditation, and helps people that are vegan that might be kind of feeling like they're struggling or angry, and helps them with how to approach other people basically, and how to approach the world. Because in a lot of cases, it's like, I always say once you see a good movie and or you know something and you want to tell everybody about it, you don't want to start judging people because most of us were not vegan before we discovered some type of video. And in my case, it evolved. For the first 6 months, I don't know for a fact that I wouldn't have had a burger had I gotten to a point where I really wanted to. I didn't realize it was ethical to me until well into the journey. And, with you, Dawn, you've made such, like, I love your progress and being able to tell people because you even know better when we talk to people how they are feeling at different points because you went vegetarian and then vegan, which I never even did. I just went all plant based. So it's like, I feel like the way you have to tell people your own story and your own journey and just give them information. And just like you did for me and I did for you, I feel like we kind of coffee beaned each other. And what we hope to do with these streams is kind of coffee bean even more people, I definitely think the best way to do it is to like acknowledge that people are where they are in their journey and realize, yes, I can't change, but I do want to tell you some things that happened to me. I want to show you a video of somebody who's changed. And that's why I'm so passionate and why I do what I do is because I feel like the information's hidden.
Yeah.
And I want people to at least know that other side.
Yeah.
I've been
Good
telling you
deal.
about the coffee bean theory forever, haven't I? I had to
Yeah.
called the coffee beans in my old workplace. So, what do
And I
you
think
feel
it's an
like?
awesome theory. You know what I mean?
Yes, I was just gonna
Yeah.
say, what do you feel like was one of your for people that might be listening? That what do you feel like was one of your biggest struggles early on in going plant based?
Um, I was kind of ready to do it,
Hmm.
but I would just basically say, like anybody, just making a change. Anytime you make a change is difficult, you
Yeah.
know, and it takes a good month to create a new habit, and it's different when you are reestablishing something that you already did. Like, say you're somebody that works out typically, right?
Hmm.
And for whatever reason, maybe you get injured or you're just feeling like right now working out might not be the thing for you.
Hmm.
And you get back into it. Well, it's a lot easier, like mental and physical muscle memory wise, to reestablish a habit that you had already done rather than to create a new habit. It's twice as hard to create a
Yeah.
new habit than to just fall right back into something that you're already familiar with. And with this, I was used to eating meat all my life. You know what I mean? So for me to stay, it wasn't like I was a vegetarian when I was a kid and just kind of fell right back into it, or a vegan when I was younger and just kind of fell right. I had never lived that way.
Right.
So to establish that from scratch, that would I would say would be the hardest part for me, was that, But once it got going, it was easy to maintain because I believed in it.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that is what remember when we talked about on the 5 tips to going plant-based a couple of weeks ago, we
Hmm.
were saying the one thing is you have to find a why. You have
Yeah.
to want to be motivated to do it. And it really is a lot easier than people make it out. But I feel like a lot of times, at least for me, I put things off and don't do things or don't get started on things that I really feel like is just all over the place in my mind. Like, I don't know how, I don't have a clear cut
Right.
answer of and for most people, that's why you see so many of those videos out there. And I even did one where I was like, what I eat in a day? Because
Hmm.
really, people are like I saw this little picture. I think I even talked about last week, or maybe it was after. But I said it was like people ask like, how did I give up meat? and was it hard? And they said I gave up three animals, three types of animal meat for over like 2,000 fruits, vegetables, and nuts and seeds that I have access to. Like, we don't realize because of how we're
That's
so
pretty wild.
used to having a meat on our plate. We're taught to have meat and a green vegetable and something else, starch. You know how we grew up like that. Like, when you go to a steak place out back, you'd get a steak, baked potato, and you get like some kind of broccoli or salad, right? So it's like that's how we were brought up. So when we say, okay, I'm taking that out, it's like, okay, I'm taking something major out. But what you don't realize after a while is you can add in so much more foods, and you
Hmm.
can create things that give you that same, like beans and rice and protein and breads, things that you can't really have on other diets, and you can't, like, if you're going all raw like I did. But if you're just whole food, plant based, there is so many options. If you think about it, most of the stuff you already eat. Like, if you
Dude, I'm gonna tell you, you mentioned Outback. I love their broccoli almost more than I loved the steak.
yeah, like, I
Just
was
the
always a
taste
side
of it.
person.
Oh my
Mhm.
God, I used to love the taste of it because their broccoli has a charred kind of grilled taste that literally reminds you of the steak. It all tastes the same. And I'm like, I would have such a good time eating the broccoli even leading into the steak that I mean when we did this and went this way, I was cool with if we wanted a snack and we were out and about and it was lunchtime. I'd go by Outback and grab some broccoli and have just as good a time as if I was eating steak.
Right?
I'm
Exactly.
thinking about it now. I'm like, damn, that would be good.
I have some broccoli. I'll try to make it Outback style for you. I don't know if we want to order broccoli and go out for broccoli. We're going out for broccoli. But there's like so many combinations and so much, you can just make like a big pot of like all kinds of veggies, potatoes, rice, whatever you want to put in it, and you can make soups, and you can, have big salads. And then there's a ton of like plant-based recipes out there. Like, we've tried a couple that I saw someone posted on the Vegan for Beginner page, which is another page I'm a group member of. And we post recipes all the time on the Vegan Knowledge group if anyone wants to join and come on in there. And if you're listening but haven't joined the group, I'll put the link to it in the description here.
The
So,
crazy part too, even if you took it back on biblical times, I was just thinking about, Adam and Eve in the garden, there weren't steaks and pork chops hanging off the trees.
hmm
Okay. What did he give them to eat? You can eat all you want. Fruit,
hmm
apples and all the fruit from the trees is what we were originally intended to eat. There are fruitarians out there that are, wholeheartedly just eating fruit and living a very full life.
Yeah, it's like, it's all about what we get in our head. If you think
That's
about
it.
over times in life where you're a completely different person than you were when you were 15, yet those were your habits when you were 15. Now, if you're in your 30s or 40s or 50s or older, you have completely different set of habits. You probably have a different set of tastes. So it's all about just getting
And
a
you have a
different
different
vibe.
outlook and view of the world and what things are and what they mean to you. That
Exactly.
changes over time. And it's like your health as you get older becomes more and more important because when you're younger, you feel invincible. You don't think, oh, I'm thinking down the line time. You're not thinking that at 15. You're not thinking that at 20. Maybe 30, you start to kind of get a thought about it a little bit, but it's still, you're still in that, piss and vinegar, still full of youthful energy. But then once you start to get 40, and you start feeling some different things happening with your body, you start reaching for things that make you feel like you did when you were younger. And
Exactly.
you find that eating this way makes you feel that way. It eliminates a lot of the does not only disease, but it eliminates a lot of the symptoms of aging when you eat a whole food plant-based diet.
And some people say, well, oh, we're only here for a short time. I'm going to eat what I want. But you know what? While you're here, it's
What
like,
about your quality of
your
life?
quality. Do you want somebody, it was, I think, one of the test type questions or scenario questions that I was asked on the we did it health, and it said, what if someone says to you that they would prefer quality over quantity? Well, you're not going to have either one, because I think people live a lot longer than they used to. So like, and when I'm, in my early to mid 60s, I don't want to not be able to walk. I don't want to be in and out of doctor you know visits, taking tons of medication that have
And
side
check
effects.
this out. I don't want to like I just told you there was a centenarian that lived to 113. The woman, that young woman is right. That lived to 113. I don't necessarily need to live to be 10,000 years old, but while I'm here, I don't want to be walking up and down the steps with knee pain. I don't want pain in my feet. I don't want headaches. I don't want to, oh, now let me, breast cancer. I don't want to like have to fight off a lot of these things that start attacking an aging body. And eating a plant-based whole food diet does not guarantee that that's not going to happen, but it greatly increases your odds of it not happening. And if it does, it greatly increases your odds of making it through and being able to live another 10 or 15, 20 years in a much healthier state, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. I was listening to a little bit of our interview today because I reshared it. Mark Samuel had commented on a post who kind of just got rid of his symptoms of MS and was able to come off this really expensive type medication they were trying to give him each month. And what stood out to me is he said, people say, but how are you giving up all that different food? But what he said is, I was opened up to a whole new world of food that I didn't even know existed. Like, I'm
Right.
eating things that are so good. I'm making combinations. Like, even if you're somebody, let's just say, who says, you know what, I'm doing this just for the animals, and you don't, you can learn that there's so many products out there. Like, if you want a cheesecake, you can get a vegan cheesecake. If you prefer to have, you want that taste of burger one night, or you want pizza, there's vegan forms of this that's really good. It's not like it was many, many years ago, where people, like, things tasted
Yeah, they
really
they wanted
bad.
a burger, and it was
They
a
had
bunch of
uh,
vegetables that
vegetables
tasted like
hanging out of it.
cardboard.
Right.
Right. You
I
know?
got turned off by a vegetarian or whatever burger a long time ago, but these products are different when you need something. I mean, just taking, like, if you like, let's say, stuffed peppers or chili or whatever, you can do chili with mushrooms. People think that they're making it healthier by putting turkey in the chili, but you're not. There's so many, like, documentaries that can show you why this happens. But I know so many people are suffering from type 2 diabetes and
All
other
kinds
things.
of chronic illnesses because of them eating meat and dairy. It's like, listen, let me ask you a question. If I had two options for you, behind door number one was 20 more years of life where you could basically live as you did when you were in your 30s and 40s and still be able to work out and still be able to go to the beach, still be able to look, relatively young, or 5 more years of life and you get to eat all the meat and dairy you want. What
And
would you
there's,
pick?
of course, I know which
You
one
know
I
what I
pick.
mean?
Yeah, that's a
That's
great way.
basically
I
what,
like
what you're
that.
doing. You
You
know what
might
I
have
mean?
to do the door number one, door number two theory one of these weeks now. That was really good. I like that analogy, because and I like to find out the why behind things. I think that's something else that,
Oh, and with that 5 years comes the chronic diseases as well. Can't leave
right.
that out
You
because
can't
that's what you're gonna get.
you can't get around. You have to take medications, and the problem with a lot of the medications, and here's what I'll say, they have side effects that cause other things that might need another medication. But let me tell you this, the one thing that I was going to say is the why behind it. Like sometimes it's like, okay, this is your opinion, or that's his opinion, or that's her opinion. Well, my opinion is I'm okay to eat this stuff. But the actual science behind it, and I've heard this from Dr. Neil Barnard, I've heard it from the guys from Mastering Diabetes. You can look at research articles from the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, and even scientists that aren't connected with them. Like, there are the reason that we have type 2 diabetes, or the reason that you have sugar backing up in the blood, is because of insulin resistance. And if you probably have heard that, and I will, come to my page. I have a lot of videos that share it from somebody who can explain it a lot better. But to me, the simplest way is what I heard was it is like like a drain that's clogged. So let's say, when you're 13 years old and you eat a cookie, or you eat a banana, or you eat, something that might have a little bit of sugar, a potato. Next thing you know, your sugar travels through the bloodstream, and it is meant to go in these liver and muscle cells, I believe is what it is. So, anyway, there's these little holes where it's like, okay, I'm done being in the blood now. I've got to get out. So, I'm going to go in these little holes. Think about it like the drain of your sink. That hole is where you pour water down the drain, or you pour a soda, or whatever it is you're pouring. It it backs up if you can't get it in there. So what ends up happening, the water, or the cookie or the sugar, it goes right into your cells like normal, and you can keep on moving, and then maybe even into your 20s. But over time, let's say you're getting nearing now, like maybe 35 or so, or if you had ended up with a really high fat diet on a lot of meat and dairy, it might happen sooner if you became overweight. That's why a lot of the illnesses don't start out when we're kids. We're not born with them. They develop because a typical, like Dr. Barnard said, a typical meat and dairy based diet is completely, it's pure, it's fat, because that's what it is, it's high fat food, because it's coming from an animal. So it's not a vegetable, it's come from an animal. So what ends up happening over time, these little particles, these little fat particles, are getting caught where the in the muscle and liver cells, where the sugar is supposed to naturally go. So you eat that same banana, and all of a sudden the sugar's like, I can't get in there. I guess I'm gonna have to stay here. And that's like pouring that fruit juice in your sink with the drain clogged, and it starts building up and backing up, and your sugar's getting higher and higher. You've now went through a day, and then you start maybe, having things that manifest that in your body. You start to feel the side effects of this, having too much sugar, and your body can't make enough insulin to get it through there. And which breaks down the sugars, and all of a sudden everything's working too hard, and you go to the doctor, and they say, oh, your sugar's high, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you this medication. It's going to, whether it be, if it's really high, they're going to give you some type of insulin or some type of medication. I'm going to, lower the blood and make sure you don't eat a lot of carbs, maybe even cut down on some of the higher sugar fruits, and definitely don't eat any sugar. And they never mention meat, and they never mention dairy in this process, and they give you a medication to take and reduce the sugar in the bloodstream, but they never clear the drain. So you're going to be on this medication and having to really like watch what you eat, and be afraid that you can't eat like a piece of whole grain bread because it's too many carbs. And the next thing you know, you're having to test your blood sugar every day. Well, the easiest thing you can do, and this happens, I've heard of people even within like 2 weeks, 30 days, if you go on an all whole food plant based diet and a low fat whole food plant based diet, then that's why it's lower in fat. So all of a sudden, your cells that were get these fat particles, they actually reverse and they clear out, and you start to realize, okay, now when I can eat the sugar, oh wait, that's opened up. I don't need this medication because I can go where I'm supposed to. And that's how people are curing and or reversing type 2 diabetes. But again, I'm not a doctor, so you'll want to make sure you talk to your doctor when you start a
She just
plant-based
plays
diet.
one on YouTube.
I play one on YouTube, but you can actually, find a lot of really accredited doctors that will talk about this, including the guys from Mastering Diabetes, Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, prmc.org. Dr. Neil Barnard has a book called Reversing Diabetes with a whole food plant based diet. So there's lots of resources for you. Lots of these places have meal plans and everything, but essentially, instead of just treating and managing it, you're going to now go in there and say, you know what, I'm going to make a change to my diet. I'm going to figure out what are the things I can eat. And it's really anything you want, as much as you want, except for you cannot have anything that has meat and dairy. But you open up this whole world of foods and you get creative. Like we've had chickpea salad, believe it or not, that tastes just like tuna salad. We've had, we've made like we made mushroom chili the other day that tasted just like, the traditional chili that you would always eat. Because like I tell people, beans and things, when you season stuff, you're going to make it taste like what you want it to taste like. Like, they have something, you can get tofu, which I know it sounds scary at first, but you can literally make this into anything that you want. We made barbecue tofu, and it was so like little chunks of barbecue. You're basically doing the same thing that you do with meat. You don't get meat, or you don't jump off the side of the road and say, "Oh my goodness, look, I'm going to grab that dead animal and that's going to taste good." You get it from the store, and even at the store when you buy it,
Not
everybody's like,
unless you're Duck Dynasty.
right, yeah, like, you don't that's the thing, our body, like, was our digestive system too is set up like a rabbit, basically. Even though it's a joke, you eat rabbit food, but you really don't have to eat rabbit food. There's so many good things and so many resources. Our body, like, if you look at the way our teeth chew, we were grinding. So, like dogs and carnivores, they have more of an up and down type thing. Ours was meant to grind the fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds to get the nutrients out. Our digestive tract is really long because it has to, it's breaking down these great nutrients that we're putting in. And the meat eaters have a short digestive tract because that meat's supposed to go in and it's supposed to come out. But that's why we have a lot of stomach issues. The acidity is set up like that of a plant-based herbivore, and not like that's why there's so much acid reflux, because the meat can't be broken down properly with the fluids in our body. Like, there's just a ton of things. And if you look around, like, a lot of times, once you know all this, the world is like boiling water. Like, we're sick, and we're continuing to think that, what they're telling us, you need meat, you need dairy, it does body good, and it's continuing to make us sick. And there's studies where it causes so many different things. And it's kind of like, it's one of the hardest thing to reprogram your brain and realize, think if you think about it, I'm putting things in me. Like, if I look up what are the health benefits of a cucumber, the first three things is may lower blood pressure, levels of blood sugars, and prevents cells from forming that may cause cancer. And it actually hydrates the skin. And so then we look up the next thing: broccoli can reduce inflammation, and has been known to reduce cancer cells. And then we look up tomatoes, and they do the same thing. And then celery increases circulation. All of these have antioxidants, which keep you from getting sick, boost your immune system. So, like, why wouldn't you want to pack yourself, like we always say, like, you look at your car's owner's manual to put the right gas in it, like it says in the poem. But when you look at your body, you're not doing that same thing. And not that sometimes you don't want to have, let's say you do have a some of the processed food, but the one thing you're not getting when you eat a plant-based meat or a plant-based butter, which they have such good of all of that stuff, you're not getting the cholesterol. And that's what's causing high blood pressure. I've read stories and listened to people who've reduced their, have reversed high blood pressure and heart disease, have solved chronic pain, chronic fatigue. Like your mood will get better, even. You will just feel better overall. And pretty much anything you can think of, if you have it, you can look up and go ahead and Google it and say, I reversed blank with a whole food plant based diet. And I guarantee almost anything you can find, because I have when I talk to people and try to help them, you'll find it. And if you need help, we're here to help you. There's so many resources. I can send you to websites. Um, Next, there's a really good thing I read today. There's a lot of people on our group, and tomorrow I will share some of our group members who are like coaches as well. I know Marakita was on here with us, and she does some great work. And then next week, I'm really excited. I know we are going to wrap up here not too long from now, but next week we have. I'm so like honored to have Angel and Light from the gentleworld.org organization. They've got a vegan book, ebook. It's free, called 20 Questions. And I read that today, and it's so good when you're first starting out. It goes through everything with you, what to eat, why should I eat this way. So I'm looking forward to talking to them next week.
I was thinking about like a little story of the coffee bean as it pertains to being a vegan.
Hmm.
And I just started, you know how those couples go on the couple retreat at Married at First Sight?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was thinking, what if one week they had a situation where everybody came, right? And there was a vegan couple. This is just hypothetical. It's just, just to paint a picture of how cool this theory is that that you pride yourself on, and that have worked between us for years. But say there's seven couples, and one of the couples is a vegan couple, and everybody else, eats meat and dairy, right? And everybody else that comes in, you've got a couple different couples that are just, they seem like they're in reasonably good health. All of them are from ages maybe 30s up to late 40s, right?
Hmm.
And you've got this couple who is a vegan couple that looks like they're in their 20s or 30s, but actually they're in their 50s, right?
Wow.
And then these, all of a sudden everybody's cooking, they're out at the barbecue grill and they're grilling and everything, and they're asking the vegan couple, hey guys, you want some steak? They're like, no, we're vegan, we're good. But I'll tell you what, I've got a couple of peppers that you can throw over there on the other grill that doesn't have meat or anything. You mind if we use that? Does anybody want any of these vegetables? And you know mostly everybody said no, right? And but there was this other not the husband, but the wife said, you know what, I've been feeling a little weird, my stomach's been messed up lately, so I think I will have some of those vegetables. Just, I'm going to forego the meat tonight and have some of those vegetables with you. And so
Right.
they said, okay, cool. So they fixed her a plate of vegetables, and they were grilled and they tasted really good. Like if you had these vegetables, you wouldn't have missed the steak because they seasoned them up and they were that good, and the texture of them almost made you feel like you were eating steak, right?
Like a cabbage steak.
Right. Right. So all of a sudden, they're going by, and they're at this retreat for like a couple months, but within this next week, all of a sudden the girl starts saying, hey, are we eating those vegetables again tonight? Like she starts eating vegetables every night with them, and the stomach issues that she had when they first went on the retreat went away. And her husband saw this and he said, you know what? I've been having just, a little bit of chest pains. I think I might eat some, eat some of the veggies with you tonight with them. You know what I mean? Just to
Mhm.
kind of, say. And so he partook of the vegetables, and next thing you know, he stopped complaining of chest pains. She no longer had the stomach issues, and they felt fantastic. Well, lo and behold, the other couple started witnessing all of this. The next thing, another couple started eating the vegetables, and another couple. And by the time they all left the retreat, everybody was eating vegetables and there was no more meat, and everybody left vegans.
That is great. I love that. I love that ending. Happy ending. I love it. And that's pretty much what that what you can do if we're trying to really help people is just talk about it. You can't, like you said, force it, but that's a
They were
great
the
way to
they were
do
the
it.
coffee beans.
Let people.
That couple was the coffee beans, and they turned everybody around them into the coffee. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
yes, I
It
love
worked.
that. They're the coffee bean. So it's like instead of them, going and not even participating in the little cookout or whatever, instead of them not participating at all because they weren't going to be able to eat what everybody else did, instead of them succumbing like the carrot and saying, "Well, I'm going to eat meat again, even though I'm feeling so good," what they did was just carried on their own thing, showing how great it was. Because it's like you got to get excited about this, and you got to get excited about food and what you're eating, and it's so good. Once you get into it, you don't realize how good it is, like you said. And by them, that's another thing. The best thing to do is have people, like I've let my mom and my sister try eating plant-based, and they know. So that's like part of that seed planted. They know that there's good stuff that they can eat and make. So like it's just the part about getting the habit over to changing. And like you said, by them letting them try that pepper, they started eating the pepper. I love that. And then they ended up being the coffee bean for the rest of the people. I love this. I wish that was a real story, which it probably is somewhere. Did I lose you?
What happened?
I said, I wish that was a real story. We need to write into Married at First Sight.
Yeah, I'm sure somewhere something like that has probably happened.
I know, right? I mean, and we don't know. Maybe it has. I don't know what they, in a lot of cases eat. I feel like we would have heard about it if they, were vegan. But the one thing that they didn't do was start shaming everybody and saying, you shouldn't eat that, making them feel bad. That might have turned those people off.
Yeah,
Instead, they
that's
offered.
not the way to do it. It's like lead by example. Let people see your success and the weight loss that you've experienced, the youthful energy that you have, the fact that you feel good 95% of the time, even though you're pushing 60, 70 years old. You showed me a guy that was 93 years old yesterday on a
He looked
video.
40.
He didn't look a day over 40, 45 years old, and
Yeah,
he's been
maybe even
eating vegan
50 at the
plant-based
oldest.
for, yeah, he's been eating that way for 40 years. He started in his 40s. So that's another thing. Don't think it's too late. I'm already 50, so whatever. And I've lived most of my life. The hell with it. No, there's a lot of people out here that start this. Like I said earlier in this video, a lot of people come to Jesus basically when they're facing death or facing old age or something like that makes them want to change and live longer or have a better quality of life. And you'll find that a lot of people who have become vegan and who
Mhm.
are living are starting it in their 40s and 50s.
Because like you said, usually something, we're not all told this information. We're not definitely not taught it
Right.
in school. We're definitely not taught it by our parents, because our parents were taught by the same, cultural beliefs that we were taught. So it's like the first time you might hear this is like on a video, or meet somebody somewhere like Woody did on the bus saying, "Hey, you need to give up dairy because that's probably what's going on with your skin." Or you might talk to somebody at work and they say, "Oh, I'm vegan." "Oh, what's that?" So the best thing you can do is just share. I miss That's what I do. I talk about, this is what happened to me. I I didn't know this before, but here's what I learned, because I didn't always know what it meant to be. I didn't even know the difference between a vegetarian and a vegan when I first watched that video, and basically it's just that
Not many people do.
yeah, and sometimes it's like there can be variations of the word. Like vegan means not wanting to show any harm to any animal, not using products that are tested on animals, not using anything that has any harm to animals with any animal product in it, which includes not eating meat or dairy, because we've learned what I was saying about the dairy industry is just as bad. It's really still abusing animals. So plant-based tends to mean, I don't I eat plant-based food. It's pretty much a diet. But I'm not looking to see if the plates that I'm ordering may have been something that was used in animal testing, or the makeup, or whatever you want to say, like that. Or I have to not wear something that was produced by an animal. I know people that are plant-based try not to, but when it's vegan, that's when you've made that commitment to that lifestyle to really make sure that you are doing your best. Obviously, sometimes we don't know things are done, or it may not be in the
Right, and
ingredients.
it's on all levels, not just food. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like not wearing leather, not wearing fur. You're just not into abusing animals in any way, shape, or form. It's not just about not eating them. It's about, not harming them, period. For
Yeah.
our own, you know, cosmetic or for you know what I mean? It's
Or
just
for
not
like
hard.
sport and stuff, because some people there are
Yeah.
vegans that don't believe in horse
Pigskin.
racing or the football, because they use that, pig skin. So there's a different like levels, but I would say that for the most part, you might evolve to one thing or another. Like I started out just doing it for a diet, and you might end up, because you get into the vegan groups and you see more stuff and read more stuff, that you might end up being an ethical vegan, animal rights activist in the end, so
Mhm,
you
mhm.
might just not be wanting to. And for me, I think because I started with watching the documentary on the health benefits, and I see so many people suffering, that's where I focus a lot of my page. But it's that there's always that thing that why I continue to do it, and it makes you see things in a different way. When you connect that there's no difference between your pet and the cow, other than what you were told. Like, I'm supposed to eat this. I'm supposed to be okay with killing that animal, but I'm not okay with a dog being left in the car. Like, why? What makes one part of our family, and what makes, because people have pet pigs, but yet them same people probably have bacon. You know what I mean? So it's a
Yeah.
disconnect that I had for so many years. That's why I understand where people are when they don't know that part of it or haven't experienced that, because even like I said, for the first 5 or 6 months I didn't experience that part of it. So it's like, for so many levels it makes so much sense, and we won't even get into the environmental on this one. We've had a stream about that, but it's like, if you think about it, why wouldn't I just want to go ahead and open myself up, get creative, buy as ton of vegetables, beans, grains, rice, and make all these different combinations so that I can give myself the best chance of preventing and reversing diseases I already have, and also not harming any animals, and you're saving the environment in the process too. Like, it seems like it's such an easy thing. No wonder they're hiding it, because all the meat factories are going to have to go into mushrooms now or whatever, and make a change. But that's a bigger part of it too. We have to give these people something, another direction to go in. And I think that there are organizations that are working to help, a lot of farmers going from, I saw a video of a guy who went from being a cow farm, or whatever they call that, to he actually ended up making a really successful business out of mushrooms, and
Yeah.
they end up realizing it's cheaper, it's less
I
work.
mean, almond milk. We need people to grow almonds. They're making almond milk and plant-based milk. Instead of abusing the cows, let go ship the cows back off to India where they worship cows. Let them have the cows. And we get into growing almonds and making milk out of the plant-based stuff. You can switch it. Just like you started that business, you can start another one. And you think people aren't going to pay for that? They're already buying it.
Yeah, I notice a lot more products are doing that now because they're starting to see a shift in what people are buying. We are actually literally starting to drive the market because I saw when I was looking on DoorDash today or Instacart, one of them, they said save 30% on your order or some kind of thing when you buy milk or eggs. So I'm like, okay, I know the price of those things went up too. So you not only that, you'd be getting stuff much cheaper by not eating meat. And people are like, oh, vegan diet's so expensive. Think about it. Go to the store, buy a bag of potatoes, a big thing of brown rice, or whatever kind of rice you like. Buy some bags of beans, right, and
Yep.
then buy a bunch of vegetables, and that's basically your thing. What costs a lot is the dairy a
You
lot of
can spend a
times,
hundred
the
bucks
meat.
and get a week's worth of food.
Yep. It's definitely, if you do whole food plant. Now, if you're going to buy Gardein plant-based chicken and Gardein
That's where it
plant-based
gets
nuggets and
expensive.
Beyond Burgers, and I'm going to buy all this like vegan candy and stuff. Yeah, I mean, it depends how, just like you wouldn't buy all that stuff for your kids now, probably. They don't get everything in the frozen section. You have to think about this the same way, and it's just literally getting into a new zone, a new habit, and really just going on ahead and
Just
making the
embracing
commitment
it.
and doing it. It'll be the best thing you ever did. And like, I have no
Everything is
personal interest in
uncomfortable in the
why you would do it
beginning.
other than I care about you and I
Yeah,
care about the animal.
everything is uncomfortable in the beginning. That's what people tend to forget.
Oops,
When you
I
first
think I
tried to
lost
tie your
sound.
shoes, I still hear you. But
Can you
if you
still
go
hear
to
me,
tie your
Dawn?
shoes, yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay, I'm gonna come out and come in
Um,
again so we can.
if you try to tie your shoes the first time and you don't get it done and you get upset with yourself, it's like you have to practice it. I've watched sports. I remember watching LaMelo Ball when he first went out on the court. He was making rookie mistakes and things like that, but he still ended up having a great rookie year. And then the second year he was better. And then this third year, unfortunately, he's been plagued with injuries, but he is playing some of the best basketball of his short career. It's only 3 years long that his career has been going on, but he is playing some of the best basketball that is going on out there when he's on the court. When he's healthy, LaMelo Ball is an all-star. He is somebody that is getting it done. And he wasn't playing to the level that he's playing now the first 2 years. So it takes time. Yeah, he was always good. He was always a natural, but it's just something about the way that he's been playing of late that he has really taken ownership of this team, and he is really, and that is something that happened over time. It wasn't comfortable at first.
Hmm.
So being a vegan, switching your lifestyle, yeah, that takes time. It takes 30 days to create a habit. Listen, just get into it. Before you know it, it's no longer going to be uncomfortable because it's going to be your life. It's going to be how you are. I used to, oh God, I got to work out. Now it's, if I don't work out, I feel bad,
Hmm.
because I'm used to doing it. So it's like, I haven't been able to work out for a couple weeks because I messed my knee up. I've been going nuts, but I used to be a person, oh, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. I can't wait to get back to working out because it's become that much of a habit.
Right.
So now I am a person who works out. I'm not the other person any longer, you
And that's
know?
who you were
So the same thing will
yesterday, not
happen.
today, right?
Right.
That's what you've said to
Right.
me before. It's like, oh, that's who that person.
I used to eat pizza. I can safely say now I used to eat pizza because the last time I had a regular pizza was August of last year. I mean, I'm what? How many months into it now? In a couple
I'm
months, it'll be
really
August
happy for
again,
you. That is great.
you know? And before you know it, it'll be a year. And yeah, initially it was, I'd see a commercial and oh God, that looks so good. Now I just see mucus.
Mhm. Right. When you start thinking
It's becoming
about
like how it is, it becomes like how it was with the meat. At first, I was like, damn, that Outback steak looks good. After a while, you start to get to know the truth and you step away from it and you don't eat it for a while, you can begin to look at it how it
dead
truly
flesh.
is. And it's dead. It's like, wow, that's dead flesh. And when I don't have, last week, I just had the taste of an awesome steak still on my taste buds. It's hard for me to think of it as dead flesh. When I haven't had it for 2 years
Right.
and I forget the taste of how that tasted, and I can now move forward with knowing what that truly is. Yeah, now I can look at pizza oozing cheese as mucus, which is exactly what it
I think
is.
Dr. Mills says it's a liquid secretion from a cow. And think about it, like literally, that's so weird now that I'm outside of the whole situation. And like when you're in it, you
Yeah.
don't realize you wake up and oh, I'm gonna put some milk in my cereal. But literally that came from a cow's boob. That's weird. That's not
Yeah.
designed for us. And what somebody said that, well, the reason that it's kind of why it gives us too much of the hormones is if you think about it, a baby cow has to grow really big. So that milk is meant
Yeah,
for
Stephanie was saying
that's
that.
who it
Yep.
was. Yeah. Thank you, Stephanie, for your
Stephanie
excellent
Kayak.
information. I love that last name, right? That makes me want to go kayaking. But she had so much good
It's one of
information.
our favorite things to do.
She was like, "Yeah, it's the that milk is meant to, grow a cow, a baby cow, and we're drinking it." So
That grows 600 pounds in a year's time. I don't think any of us need to be doing that.
right, but that's what it's basically. It really is like, it's you have to have an open mind and you have to do your own research to find your own why. But if you look into it, I guarantee you, if you get deep into it and really research and find out what the real deal is with how we were meant to eat and what really happens in the meat and dairy industry and really what you're eating and putting in your body, not to mention the pandemics that come from it really is something that I want to make sure that we continue to do these our amazing plants formations. If anyone has a health changes story that they want to come on and tell, we're gonna we do those pre-recorded so we can play them, and or you can come on the live on Meatless Monday and talk. And next week, like I said, we've got a really awesome guest that's going to give us perspective. Do you remember how old I said he was, Dawn? I believe he's been vegan 53 years. So he's seen a lot of, changes and have done a lot of great things to help educate people. And I'm really looking forward to interviewing Angel and Light next week. And I thank you for, you know, coming along on this journey and helping me coffee bean the world and you coffee beaning me with your video.
No, I'm good to go. I'm ready to go eat some of those vegetables
Yes,
and fill my belly with some wholesome goodness.
let's do it. Let's eat. I am starving too. It's been quite a long day, and I was like, I can always get up for no matter how long of a day I've had. I'm like, oh, meatless Monday. I would never not
Yep.
come. So thank you for all this beautiful video work. Come over tomorrow on JJ Video. Click on her or Google it. We have Takeover Tuesday tomorrow. She has this awesome, excellent show with a lot of people are there kind of commenting, and we try to read almost every comment. Really, I try to read every one if I can. So come tell your opinion on reality TV. What are we doing the other way, right?
90 Day Fiance the other way. Yes,
I
ma'am.
will be there. Let's go eat. And everyone, thank you for coming. And let's continue to coffee bean the world. and thank you for joining and listening. And we'll put the I'll go ahead and put the links in the description to the vegan knowledge page if you want some help how to get from point A to point B, how to make this happen, make the commitment. I will help you.
Everybody have a fantastic night.
Thank you. Enjoy your evening.